Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. We have a Bachelorette Rachel Lindsay story to get to. She was served divorce papers on New Year's Day, and now it looks like she's willing to pay her estranged husband around $10,000 a month. I'm going to get into this story here. And boy, does it pay to be the Bachelorette. At least it did a few years ago. Who knows if they're making this kind of cheddar anymore. But Rachel Lindsay shows why she left being a lawyer. I mean, clearly, she was making $60,000 a month. Wouldn't that be nice on this Friday? Everyone out there receiving their paychecks being like, oh, shoot, should I go on The Bachelor? Sure. I mean, it's a gold rush, folks. Everyone's trying their best. So let's get into it. I'm going to read what TMZ had to say, and then I'm going to read Lifestyle and Mag. They've all got a copy of these court papers, which means they all went to the courthouse and picked them up, or they were all leaked. I don't know who would leak them because this doesn't necessarily look great for Brian, but for Rachel, it shows how much money she's making. And we have such an issue with financial information that we get so triggered when somebody makes a lot of money. I'm not triggered that she's making $60,000+ a month. She does explain she spends $50,000 a month. That's interesting to me. There is no amount of restaurants I could go to that would, I mean, I guess maybe NBA games. I'm trying to think what I would do. Leave a comment. How would you rack up a $50,000 a month bill? Let's assume $10,000 goes to a mortgage, a couple thousand to a car payment. I know gasoline's high in Los Angeles, but Uber fees, what are we talking here? So anyway, Bachelorette alum Rachel Lindsay is firing back at her estranged husband's request for tons of spousal support. She is willing to cough up nearly 5 figures each month. According to new legal docs obtained by the 30 Mile Zone, the Bachelor Nation personality and podcaster says based on what they each bring in per month, she should be cutting Brian Abasolo a monthly check of $10,000 in spousal support. In the documents, Rachel says she's bringing in $61K per month. She calculates his gross monthly income at $13,000 for his work as a chiropractor. Now, I'm not an accountant here, so don't hold me to this, but gross monthly income is before business expenses. So shouldn't it be what he's actually pulling in? Because, if you own your own chiropractor business, it's a brick and mortar. You've got gear and equipment and, you got to pay rent and all that stuff. So I don't know. Maybe that's why he says he's only making $1,000. As reported, Brian is seeking spousal support and claims he only made $16K in all of 2023. But here Rachel is saying she has a hard time believing that figure and claims he also received some income from social media. Rachel's claiming Brian is refusing to move out of their home and isn't paying his fair share of expenses around the house since filing for divorce. Why does this feel like a Kevin James rom-com? Why does this feel? Who would star in this rom-com about a couple that breaks up and they refuse to move out? It may be like an Ashton Kutcher, Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman. They have some falling out, but maybe it's based on a disagreement, and then they decide to break up. But wait, they're tied together by a mortgage, and maybe they're locked in at such a good interest rate they don't want to sell the home because they'll lose the interest rate. I could see this modern day movie being made. Maybe it'll be Sydney Sweeney. I don't know who would be in it. Let me know. Brian filed divorce documents in January, and now Rachel is saying he told her about the filing via text message. Yikes. Only 30 minutes after they had an in-person conversation where he never mentioned it. So I don't know what their in-person conversation was. Maybe it was a breakup, but it would be wild if their in-person conversation was just a casual lunch date, and then on the way in the parking lot, he's like, oh yeah, by the way, check your email. You're being served. You got served. Rachel's lamented not getting a prenup, but now it's clear why. So that's all they have there. But wait, there's more. Lifestyle of the Rich and the Famous has more information. Brian said in court, Life and Style magazine, of course, my favorite smut magazines, Life and Style. Some people like life. Some people like style. I like life and style. Brian said in court, our current living situation is very awkward and strained. We generally do not even talk to each other and try to avoid each other. Rachel has security cameras outside our home. Only Rachel has the credentials to the security system, and she can monitor my comings and goings. I want to move out of our family residence as soon as possible, but maintaining our standard of living is not financially feasible at this time. Brian said he placed his career on hold to move twice for Rachel's. He said his income dropped while Rachel's skyrocketed. In her newly filed response, Rachel opposed his request. So we'll get into that in a second, but I have to tell you guys, did you watch last night's debate? I know, no politics over here. I don't want to trigger you, whatever side you're on. It was an absolute disaster. And I covered it on this morning's Rush Hour podcast. You can go listen to that wherever you listen to podcasts. There's always a link below. Rush Hour podcast with Dave Neal. It was an absolute disaster. We live in a wild time out there. I don't need to get into it now, but if you want to hear my coverage, Rush Hour podcast, I give a morning and afternoon episode every weekday, and I'll have a special weekend episode too. So here's what Rachel agreed to. She opposed his request. She agreed that Brian should be paid spousal support, but said his income should be imputed based on his earning capacity in the amount of $13,000 per month, which is reasonable given Brian's ability to earn working full-time prior to any order of spousal support payable from Lindsay to Brian. So she's saying, no, he makes $13,000 a month. So if she makes $60,000 a month and he makes $13,000 a month, that combined would be 74, and you would think half of 74 would be 37, and then so therefore that should be the mean amount. I don't know, guys. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. I do YouTube. So either way, she's like, I'll give you $10,000 a month. And you know what? He should accept that. This is probably how negotiation works. It shouldn't be this way, but you got to come in with such a crazy number. If he asked for $10,000 a month, she probably would be like, no. But he was like, I need $60,000 a month. And she's like, okay, I'll give you $10,000 or whatever it is, right? So not saying it's the right level of negotiation, but if this does prove to be effective, the collateral damage will be whatever bad publicity he feels like he got out of this. Could he have taken the high road? Yes. Was it worth it? I don't know. I don't think his brand is going to change at all. I think the people that hated him. I think the casual fans not following this, like us crazy, Bachelor people. She agreed that Brian should be paid, so we got to that part. Rachel said the payments should not exceed a period of 1/2 of the length of the marriage. She asked that Brian's request for $75,000 be denied and that he pay her $15,000 to cover legal fees for his failure to promote the settlement of the litigation. In her declaration, Rachel said Brian has failed to produce all of the relevant information regarding his income, thus making this process far more expensive than it need be. Given the fact that he largely paid his own expenses during our marriage, it is unfathomable that he is only earning slightly more than $1,000 per month, as he states on his income and expense declaration. Again, I'll have to know if they're talking about income, gross income, net, whatever, what are they talking about? She added, have had to subpoena third-party entities in order to get the true picture of Brian's financial state. Here's where it gets interesting. In the records produced by PayPal, for example, I learned that Brian received more than $253,000 in cash transfers during our short-term marriage. Brian refused to produce this information in response to my demand for production, which specifically sought same. What could you possibly be doing to receive $250,000 a year in cash transfers? Hey, I don't know. Maybe he's got a trust fund and he's moving money around to a different high yield savings account and he's storing it in pay. I don't know, folks. I don't know. But this is where it gets ugly when it comes to family divorce court. Lindsay added, since we separated, gonna keep them separated. Since you've been gone, I have paid 100% of the mortgage, property, taxes, homeowners insurance, maintenance and repairs, utilities, and costs to care for our pets, including food, medicine, daycare, boarding, vet bills, pet insurance. They got to put their pets in boarding. Don't get me wrong. I lost my pet 1 week ago today. The idea, first of all, no boarding would have taken my animal. I had a savage basset hound. He would have drooled. I mean, they wouldn't have done it. He had to come with us wherever we went. But I guess they were doing doggy daycare. They have that doggy daycare where you can, there's like a wireless camera set up so you can just see what they're doing. And there's always like some dog humping in the corner. And then another dog's licking up another dog's puke. It is what it is, folks. These dogs, they're pack animals. Except for paying our gardener and 50% of our housekeeping costs, Brian continues to reside in my house without contributing any funds to the carrying costs. So he's paying the gardener and the housekeeper. The reality star continued, I am not flush with cash, as he believes me to be, and I certainly cannot pay his attorney $75,000 to litigate our uncomplicated divorce. If I did so, I would not have sufficient funds remaining to pay my own counsel. Now, okay, I'm not making this a gender thing. She's the breadwinner. Okay, let's make it a gender. Would Would we be treating this the same way if the rules were reversed? I think so. I think it's crazy that the breadwinner pays the other person's legal bills. It's almost like if you're going through a divorce, both sides go broke and the lawyers are only the ones that make money. That's just how it works. They would have been better off paying $10,000 to a mediator and spending a awkward Saturday together in a Ramada Inn conference room working this all out. But that's not what's going to happen here. She explained, my financial situation has changed in the last few years as I no longer receive income from extra TV or Facebook. Interesting. Income from Facebook. Was she working with Facebook? They did used to have a bonus system they no longer have. Her motion pointed read, my monthly expenses exceed $49,500. Brian's expenses are allegedly $17,000. However, upon inquiry through counsel, he has refused to explain what these expenses are for, as he does not contribute to any community expenses. Further, Rachel said their standard of living during their marriage was nowhere near as glamorous as Brian portrays it to be. In fact, we rarely saw each other or even lived together during our marriage. Judge has yet to rule. Brian filed for divorce from Lindsay on January 1st. The couple wed in 2019. The date of separation was listed as December 31st. And there were other comments here. And by the way, look, this is how hateful people are. Seems like she continues to be the nightmare that we have all witnessed her to be, shaking my head. I don't think she's a nightmare here. To be quite honest, I don't know who's in the right or wrong. She claims that they found all this cash in his PayPal. He claims she's making a ton of money. So my thought is this. It's an unreasonable thing they've both got going on. Rachel, Brian, come into my office right now. Let's work it out. Rachel, you say you make $61,000 a month. Brian says he makes $1,000. Brian, come on. What do you make in a month? You got a lot of expenses? Okay. You were married 2 years? All right. Rachel, for 12 months, just pay him $10,000 or cut him a check right now for $120K. That's it. You guys are done. That's the amount of money that gets you out of this mess. He supported you. He moved across the country while you were pursuing your dreams. So he was a supportive partner. Blah, 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 blah. Rachel, $50,000 a month in expenses? Come on. What are you spending on that? I mean, maybe she has to buy jewelry. I don't know. I don't know what these ladies are spending this money on. Got to get your car cleaned. There's a garden. I don't know. But they both, I smell a little BS coming from both ends. Her saying she's spending $50K a month. My guess is even $20,000 a month. I mean, who's spending $500,000 a year? Again, I know times are tough out there. There's the inflation, Kroger, the groceries are expensive. Trader Joe's isn't what it used to be, but it's interesting. And we're going to have to see what the judge says. Cause again, this is just her response to the filing. And if you guys are like me, as a layman, non-lawyer here, whenever I read the latest response from whatever side we're covering, it always feels like that's the right side because they sound so convincing. So Brian's like, I moved across the country. I'm not making any money. My business in the tank and you're thriving. I need some of your money. And she's saying, no. There was also a report, which I don't know where it went. There was a report that she flies first class and he flies economy and they split their flights. Like they don't pay for each other's flights, which by the way, is just ridiculous. Let's go here. Lindsay goes on to explain their travels, saying their trips were either sponsored or they each paid their own airfare. If I was paying, I did not fly Brian business or first class. He flew economy. We generally split the hotel cost 50-50. I mean, I don't know. In my marriage, once my channel took off, I just cover everything. But in the past, I guess when my wife and I when times were tougher, we would split. I guess we would split flights. Like I would buy everything and then she would pay rent. And if I owed her $1,000, but I spent $1,000 in the flights, we would kind of like wipe it clean, right? So there's always a way of working it out. But yikes. This is playing out for the public to see. And we'll see what the judge rules, and we'll see what the hell's going on with that PayPal. I got a PayPal. There's not $250,000 of cash in it, but if you find it, you can throw as much money into it as you want. I won't stop you. Or you can just join our Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal. Monday, we will have a private live stream for a good amount of time. It's going to be our Patreon appreciation live stream. So if you don't see us here on YouTube, it's because we're behind the paywall. It's only $5 a month. Patreon.com/Dave Neal. We got more content coming your way. We'll be back right after this.